Chapter 1 by Meredith Brown. What is psychology? Psychology is a scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Psychology is a science because it uses a scientific method to research various phenomena. The goals of psychology are to explain, describe, predict, and control. One thing to note, however, is that psychology cannot prove anything. However, through research, it can significantly support theories. A theory is a proposed reason for relationships among events. From theories, we can derive explanations and we can make predictions. Well, what do psychologists do? They conduct research. Pure research is research for the sake of research, because you kind of want to know the answer. And applied research is research that is done with the intention of applying it to something specific. Of course, we also practice psychology, such as therapy, and teaching, like I'm doing now. The fields of psychology: clinical, counseling, school, educational, developmental, personality, social, environmental, experimental, industrial, organizational, human factors, consumer, health, forensic, and sport. Each of these fields are specialized, but they can all be involved in research. Let's talk about some ancient history. Aristotle argued that human behavior is subject to rules and laws. Democritus raised the question of if there is free will or choice. Socrates suggested that we use introspection, looking at one's cognition. Introspection is still used today, now breaking away from philosophy towards psychology becoming a science. Gustav Theodor Fechner published The Elements of Psychophysics in 1860, and in 1879, Wilhelm Wundt established the first psychology laboratory. Now, the schools of psychology. Structuralism. Wilhelm Wundt. Wilhelm Wundt stated that structuralism breaks conscious experience into objective sensations such as sight and taste, subjective feelings such as emotional responses and will, and mental images such as memories and dreams. He postulated that the mind functions by combining objective and subjective elements of experience. Functionalism. Functionalism was established by William James. Functionalism focused on the behavior in addition to the mind or consciousness, used direct observations to supplement introspection, and it was influenced by Darwin's theory of evolution. Adaptive behavior and patterns are learned and maintained. Behaviorism. Behaviorism is defined in psychology as the study of observable behavior and studies relationships between stimuli and responses. Two big names in behaviorism are Watson, who focused on learning observable behavior. We will learn more about little Albert later. And then Skinner, who stated, learning behavior is behavior that is reinforced. Learned behavior is behavior that is reinforced. A stimulus that follows a response increases the frequency of that response. Much more to come on Skinner later. Okay, of the two balls in the middle, is one bigger than the other? It's all about perception. Gestalt psychology focuses on perceptions and its influences on thinking and problem solving. Perceptions are more than a sum of their parts. Learning is active and purposeful, accomplished by insight and not by mechanical repetition. Hey, I want some bananas. I know, I'll stack the boxes. Insight. Aha! Psychoanalysis. Of course, when you think of psychoanalysis, you think of Sigmund Freud, who's a huge figure in psychology. You probably also think of a cigar, or maybe a couch. Tell me about your dreams. Freud proposed that people's lives are influenced by unconscious ideas and conflicts that originated from childhood. But I can promise you, there'll be much more to come about Freud. Principles of critical thinking you're going to need to, for your principles of critical thinking, you're going to need to be skeptical. You're going to need to insist on evidence, examine definitions of terms, Examine the assumptions. Be very cautious about drawing conclusions from the research. Don't oversimplify the research, and also don't overgeneralize the research. The biggest thing, however, is that you want to apply critical thinking to all areas of your life. Diversity within psychology. First, Mary Whitkin Calkins. She completed her PhD at Harvard, but was denied her PhD because of her sex. Later, she became president of the APA. George Sanchez was a Latin American psychologist who studied cultural biases in intelligence tests. Richard Schwinn, an Asian American psychologist who studied mental health and identity development among Asian Americans. Kenneth Clark and Mamie Clark, husband and wife African American psychologists, are known for their research on school segregation. The research was cited by the Supreme Court in a 1954 ruling. Mary Salters Ainsworth was known for her groundbreaking work on attachment between parent and children. Elizabeth Loftus is a contemporary researcher on memory, including false memory. Perspectives of psychology. Biological. Let's look at our genes. No, not those genes. These genes. The biological perspective seeks relationships between the brain, hormones, heredity, evolution, and behavior and mental processes. Cognitive. What are we thinking? What do you think? Cognitive is concerned with ways in which people mentally represent the world and process information. Human existential. Humanism stresses the human capacity for self-fulfillment, role of consciousness, self-awareness, and decision-making. Existential stresses free choice and personal responsibility. Behaviorist. Why is there a pigeon? More about pigeons later. Behaviorists believe learning occurs through learning history, situations, and rewards, not through conscious choice. Social cognitive states, people modify and create their environment. Cognition plays a key role. They engage in intentional learning through observation. All right, let's go global. Sociocultural perspective. Sociocultural perspective focuses on the influence of differences among people on behavior and mental processes, and the influences of ethnicity, gender, culture, and socioeconomic status on development. So, what is psychology? Well, I believe that it is imperative to the survival of humanity. Welcome to class, and hold on, this is going to be fun.